Hello and welcome! Today I am painting a girl with pink hair and cute little white bunnies, and I'm pretty excited because I am using my Daniel Smith palette that I created. I picked a whole bunch of colors I like that Daniel Smith makes, and I bought this cool watercolor 10 off Amazon. It holds 24 colors, and so far I've picked out 18 colors I really like. So trying it out, and I picked out a whole bunch of pinks because I love their pinks. I also am a big fan of blues. However, I did end up using in this painting on her eyes and the bunny's eyes, I did end up using a Schminka color phthalo turquoise because it's just so vibrant and I love it. And Daniel Smith, their blues that I have purchased so far were not quite stacking up. I think that's probably my very favorite watercolor that I have is that Schminka phthalo turquoise. So anyway, but for pinks, my favorite has to be the Daniel Smith Quin Coral. Like, it's so pretty. So anyway, in this painting, I'll talk a little bit about color mixing and just some tips because I've had some questions, and I'll just kind of let you know what I'm thinking and how my process is as far as painting and selecting colors and mixing colors. A lot of it's intuitive now because, you know, when you experiment with your paints, you start to just know what they do together. So I'm going to give you some recommendations on how to figure that out if you don't know. So in this painting, I am basically using the pinks, a lot of them just straight from the pan there. Daniel Smith sells their colors in tubes, but I just wanted them ready to go, so this way I can take my 10 along with me anywhere. So I did squirt the paints out into the pans from the tubes, and it seems to still work really well. So I'll probably have to update later, but so far they go very nicely in the pans. And anyway, so I'm using a lot of the pinks just straight out without mixing them, and then sometimes I'm layering some color over them just to add some fun quality and just a little pop to them. So what I'm doing is I did do the Potter's Pink in her hair, and then I'm using Quin Coral on her lips and in her hair. And to mix up the skin tone, I did use alizarin crimson, some Quin Coral, and then I was using, in the yellows, I was using yellow ochre and Quin Gold to mix up that skin tone. And I'm going in really light, and then I'm building up my layers. So with watercolor, you want to keep in mind what you want to keep white first of all, and then places that you want to keep lighter so that you don't paint over those areas, because you can lift watercolor up a little bit, but it's never really, the paper doesn't really go back to totally white typically, so you kind of want to reserve those areas. So like the bunnies, I knew I was going to keep them white. Areas on her cheeks, typically on the nose and the bottom lip, there's highlights, so just places like that. And then in the eyes, so I'm keeping whites where I can, and then if I lose them, sometimes I'll go in with white gouache or like a white paint pen, and I'll pop some white back in. But I do try to preserve the areas if I can. And you'll notice as I build up the layers and things, you'll notice that then the bunnies pop out more and things like that. So as you build up darker areas and you build more contrast into your painting, then the light areas start to pop out. So like her ears and the bunnies, as I build up the hair around the bunnies and then the background around the bunnies, they start to pop out more. Same thing on her face, the highlights, as I build up and I add more shadow, her face gets more dimension and it just starts to come to life basically, and you get that more 3D effect on your 2D surface here. So some tips I have for you about watercolor in general, like for color mixing. I have another separate little sketchbook, and maybe I'll do a video on this sometime if you guys are interested, but I have a little sketchbook or like a little watercolor notebook, and I go in and I'll take colors and I'll mix them and I'll write down each color, and then I'll have a little swatch. So I'll do a swatch of, like, say I'm mixing a red and a yellow, so I'll do a swatch of the red, a swatch of the yellow, and I'll write the colors underneath, and then I'll mix them together and I'll put a swatch of the new mixed color. So I'll do that, a whole bunch of that. Like, I'll mix all different colors. Sometimes I'll mix 3 and 4 colors to get a color, just to see how they're reacting and how they're mixing, and then I'll make notes of that. And then also I'll also go in and take like a red and a green and a blue and just kind of create little palettes for paintings. I'll just find colors that I like together, and I'll write down those names. And then when I go to make a painting, I'll look in that book and I'll be like, oh, I really like these colors together. I'm going to make a painting in these colors today. So it's just, and it's fun because sometimes you don't know what you want to paint, and then at least you're doing something artistic that day. And it's a lot of fun to take the colors and mix them and see what they do, I think. And I love creating those palettes. So it's just something to do, like if you feel like making something but you don't know what to make, then at least you sat down and you got your art supplies out and did something. And it does come in handy a lot. I think creating art, a lot of it is experimentation, especially if you're trying to create your own style, like me making this watercolor tin. There's probably not too many people that have all these colors, you know, in their palette. So like you can go online and look up and find color mixing recipes. You can go online and look at artists you like, and you can find out what their palette is and you can use that. But if you'd like to create your own style, I think part of, well, I know part of your style is colors you use. And then part of your style is the way you draw eyes. Part of your style, you know, is the way you set up a composition. Stuff like that is, all of it together makes your style. So if you're finding things you like and putting them all together and experimenting, that goes a long way to create your style. So those are just some tips there. And then as far as painting, again, so you see me moving around a lot. I'll put down the light layer, and then I'm letting areas dry, so I move over to another section while I'm letting it dry. And like up in the corner up by the right-hand bunny ear there, you see where it's glistening? That area is still wet, so if I wanted, I could drop in some color there, or I can wait for it to dry and then layer. It just depends what you want to do. So if you're wanting some colors to mingle together, like on her face, when I paint the flesh tone, I drop in shadow almost immediately a lot of times because I want those colors to mingle, and it helps drop back areas because when you put in cool colors, that will drop an area back. It'll make it fall back. Whereas when you put in warm colors, the area will pop forward. So warm colors, typically you think of a warm color or a cool color. So cool color, think of like it's more muted in a way. So like you can have a warm blue, but typically blues are cool. There are warm blues, like if they have more red in them or something, they're going to be a little warmer. And then reds, yellows, oranges are typically warmer, but there are, and this is where it gets tricky, there are reds, yellows, and oranges that are cool. And what it is there's typically like some of the cool color mixed in them, so they're a little bit bluer or something like that. And you'll train your eye. Your eye will start to see that, and you can look it up online too, and you'll find out which ones are warm and cool also. But you'll start to look at them and you'll know what's a cool color and what's a warm color. Also, another tip is values. So when I'm building this up, and I like highly recommend looking at a portrait. So if you're painting a girl, look at a picture of a girl and look at it in black and white so that you can see where are the darkest, you know, where are the darkest parts. So that'll be like where it's black or really dark gray. Where's the lightest parts, and that's where it's like white or really light gray. And you can squint and really see it. Now, when you're in black and white, it's easier to see. When you start using colors, people's eyes sometimes get confused for a little while till they train their eye. So I recommend taking a picture and then turning it to black and white to see how you're doing on the values and building it up. So like when you look at a portrait in black and white and you paint from that reference, you can see, oh, the eyes are very dark, the hair is very dark. Oh, that shadow under the neck is very dark. Those are the darkest points. So, and then you look for the highlights. Oh my gosh, on the cheeks and on the nose, it's very light. And then you kind of build from there, and you can find your medium values in relationship to everything. And then again, take a picture of it and go back and turn it to black and white to see how you're doing, and then compare it to your black and white photo, just to start training your eye to see those values, because values are important, and that's what makes your portrait look very real. If you get the values right, you can use any colors you want. The color doesn't matter as long as you're getting the value right. So values are very, very important. And then I think for drawing, I have lots of tips on drawing that I'll probably do on a different video. If you have any questions or anything you would like to know about, you know, let me know in the comments below, and I'll try to incorporate that into a future video coming up. So this video I'm just going to keep basically layering in, getting darker and darker, and I apologize, towards the end my battery runs out on this one, and so you kind of miss where I'm adding some details to finalize the painting, but I almost finished it before the battery went out. So I didn't realize the battery went out and kept painting. So anyway, thank you so much for stopping by. And if you have any questions or comments, I'd love to hear from you. And I'll keep making videos and demonstrating techniques if there's something you're interested in. So thanks so much.